Are you gonna be like this the whole time? I know you hate this. What's up, chums? Sharky here. So today I've kind of got something special for you guys. I don't usually do videos like this, but today we're going to a place called Uncommon Objects, and it's in Austin, Texas. And it is one of the coolest stores I have ever been in. I tried to film as much of the store as possible, but obviously I couldn't get every single thing in the store. I had a lot of fun walking through the store and filming this and just seeing like all the different stuff that they have. With spoopy season right around the corner, I wanted to do something like this. I've always wanted to go to that store, so without further ado, here's Uncommon Objects. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of history about this place. Uncommon Objects opened in 1991 and was founded by Steve Wyman, a collector and assemblage artist. 24 vendors sell their antiques under one roof here, into one massive unique collection of oddities, culture, history, and treasures. The shop carries every type of random find, from costume jewelry, furniture, old photographs, old signs, old toys, to taxidermy. This shop has it all. I'd like to briefly talk about some of the highlights from my visit. There is a lot in this store. As soon as you walk through the front door, it's really hard to focus. There were a few things that got me really excited about going to this place. Some of it is a bit creepy, and you'll see some of that in the video clips, but it's just so cool because you don't usually see things like this. One of the things that I was excited about was they have a big collection of skeletons and skulls here. Some of the most notable ones that I found: a duck skull that had the spine still attached, and then they had cat skulls, rat skulls, some deer antlers that still had part of the skull, and they actually have human skeleton remains here. I think to legally own and sell human remains, they have to be a certain age. I was watching a crime documentary, and I think it said that they have to be a couple 100 years old before you can sell them or even own them. So the next thing that I found interesting, they have random things in jars there. So specimen jars, which is super creepy. They had a bunch of different kinds of snakes in jars that were preserved. They had animal fetuses, which was kind of gross, but cool at the same time. They had a cow fetus in a jar. I've never seen one before. That was really interesting. And then they also had a bunch of rats in jars. Just a bunch of different weird creepy stuff. Going off of that, they also had a ton of taxidermy stuff, full on stuffed taxidermy. They had an opossum, they had multiple cow heads and steer heads, and then they had deer mounts, and they had, I think it was a lynx or some kind of bobcat or something. It was some kind of wildcat. But the weirdest taxidermied thing in there had to be this huge mastiff dog. So I don't know where they got this from. I'm sure somebody just found it and brought it in, but it was a stuffed mastiff that was huge. It was probably at least 6 feet long. I mean, you'll see it in the video, but it was crazy. I've never seen a dog that big, and I've never seen a taxidermy dog like that. They had a lot of vintage toys here too, which always gets me excited because I love learning about history and how toys used to be made. They had tin toys, so made out of metal. My mom and I were joking. She's like, "That's when they all made toys out of metal." I'm like, yeah, that probably wasn't a good idea. We saw miniatures, so they had little figures made out of different things, either metal or wood or plastic. And then they had vintage Kinder Egg toys, so those little capsule things that came with candy, but they were vintage ones. My next favorite thing was all of their nautical decor. They had a ton of seashells. I almost bought one. I ended up not buying anything this time, just because there was so much to look at. but they had a ton of seashells. They had like old telescopes made out of like brass and different kinds of metals, and compasses. I don't know what it is, but I love vintage compasses. They just look so cool. Or like ship tools that sailors would have used like back in the old days. This store is kind of known for having a ton of old photographs lying around. So they have, you'll see it in the video, but they have baskets of old photographs of people. Like, I don't know if they're just like family albums that were donated. The site did say that like vendors sell their antiques individually here, but it's like all in one place. So maybe, you know, maybe they got them at auctions or something. I remember this one thing in particular that was really cool. You know how like VR is a big thing right now, virtual reality? Well, I was telling my parents that like back in the day before they had VR, they had those like little viewfinder things that you look through. But like the original ones that first came out were invented so that people could pretend to travel around the world, because back then like they didn't really like travel abroad unless you were like in the military or whatever. So they made viewfinders that had pictures that you slide into them, and they had a ton of these. Like they were black and white photos that you slide into the viewfinder, and it's supposed to be like early VR, you know, like you could pretend you're there or whatever. They had ones of like a beach and a art gallery and like just anything you could think of. Like they made a slide out of it and you could put it in the viewfinder. They had so much other stuff, like I don't even know how to describe some of it. A lot of glass. I had to be careful where I was stepping because there were a lot of other people in the store, and I was trying really hard not to bump something because there's so much fragile stuff. I would definitely keep that in mind if you ever visit this place. There is a lot of fragile things, so don't bring like a big backpack or something, because it's just a recipe for disaster. But they had like a lot of like blown glass and paperweights and like old kitchenware, so like plates and cups and just everything everywhere. And they had art on the walls, like they had old paintings and old photographs, and Lord knows how old those are, but it was so cool to see it all in one place. It really is like a time capsule. It's like you're going back in time, because they had like so many things, not only from, you know, like the early 1900s, but even before that, like 1800s stuff. And it's crazy that this place was started in 1991, because you go in there and everything is so much older than 1991, which just blows my mind. But I highly recommend this place if you guys want something cool to check out, or you're feeling spoopy, because they've definitely got some very like weird, odd things there. It's definitely a must-see destination. It's in Austin, Texas. I'm sure you're all probably wondering if Uncommon Objects is haunted. The official answer from the store owner and staff is no. However, if you guys have ever heard of a YouTuber named Graveyard Girl, whom this video was kind of inspired by, you might know that occasionally a few potentially haunted items enter the shop from time to time. I found an article about a special doll that she had purchased in 2017, and I wanted to read it for you. Graveyard Girl, aka Bunny Meyer, is a dedicated antiquer who loves old dolls from the turn of the century and frequents this unique store where she purchased Robertina, nicknamed after the famous Robert the doll, in the summer of 2017. Bunny noticed the doll long before she purchased it. Robertina was held up by a doll stand on the top shelf in a booth she frequented at Uncommon Objects, and she described it as being an extremely extremely detailed cloth doll the size of a toddler. Upon closer inspection, she noted many unusually detailed features to the doll, such as eyelashes made from feathers and lifelike fingernails made from what appeared to be leather. She found such details both fascinating and creepy. According to her, after first seeing the doll, she developed a strong draw to it and returned to the store many times to see Robertina. In spite of something inside her telling her to leave the doll, Bunny became driven to purchase her. Bunny first attempted to purchase the doll on her birthday in 2016, but after she got Robertina down from the top shelf and sent it to the front counter, she became extremely ill and had to leave the store. Leaving Robertina behind, she returned home but couldn't stop thinking about her. She returned to the store and eventually bought Robertina. Almost from the moment she brought the doll into her home, she began to regret her decision. The doll was not only creepy to look at, but she brought a deep feeling of negativity into Bunny's home. She notes the doll never failed to startle her, and it felt dark and cold near where the doll was located. She even felt that the doll changed positions and moved on its own sometimes. At the same time, Bunny began experiencing a period of negative activity in her life, including a freak flooding of her car in a Texas rainstorm, a continuous dark mood, and numerous arguments with people in her life with whom she had never argued with before. She eventually contacted the store where she'd purchased the doll and asked about returning it. However, she was also concerned that if she did return Robertina, the doll could fall into the wrong hands and bring even more misfortune onto the unwitting new owners. Instead, Bunny moved Robertina to a storage unit where it no longer would be in her home. Bunny searched for a few months, asking people at the antique store about Robertina's origins, but nobody seemed to know. Finally, one night, the antique store had an anniversary celebration, and she was able to meet with the couple who owned the stall where she'd found Robertina. They told her they found the doll when they were picking antiques in the South. The doll was from around the 1920s and had been in the same family for generations, passed down through the years. Finally, after several months of darkness and misfortune, Bunny decided to return the doll to the antique store. However, she didn't want to transport Robertina herself, so a friend took the doll back to the store. She couldn't wait to get rid of everything related to the doll. She deleted all the photos from her camera, discarded videos with Robertina in them, and even replaced the phone she had used to photograph Robertina. Even with all of that, Graveyard Girl didn't share her story with her YouTube followers until more than a year after getting rid of it. Update: Uncommon Objects owners told Bunny that Robertina had been purchased by a couple from Australia. After sharing her story on YouTube, followers started researching the doll and discovered that she is now housed in Alberta, Canada, in the Museum of Fear and Wonder. Robertina remains there to this day. So that was kind of just an interesting article that I found. I'll have the source linked below in the description box. And I gotta say, like, when I was in the store, I didn't really feel like there was anything sinister in the store. But I could see how potentially they could bring, dolls or items in there that may be potentially haunted. I don't really believe in ghosts, but I do believe in demons. That could be a possibility. But I hope you guys found this interesting. I'll let you enjoy the rest of the video. that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching this video if you made it to the end and saw all of the amazing things that that store has to offer. I definitely want to go back sometime. It's amazing that they're open during COVID. If you guys like this kind of follow me around type format for a video and you want me to do more, please leave a comment down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.